Welcome back to the Better Together podcast for Coldwell Banker Realty and Guaranteed Rate Affinity. Today we have two tremendous leaders. We have a show regular, President and Chief Production Officer Dave Dickey, and we have Regional President of the Southeast. We have the one and only Jeff Rubin. I'm so excited to hang out with my favorite D's today.
Me
All right,
too.
guys,
See you
we're in
guys.
episode 4. We are rolling with this Better Together podcast. And today I want to talk about something that every agent is probably feeling right now. Deals are still happening, but I think they're not probably being won the same way that they were a few years ago. I feel like in this market, winning is starting way before the offer is written. It's starting with sharper local strategy. It has stronger buyer prep, smarter financing. We've talked a little bit about that on past podcasts, but today I really want to get into the tactics. Duff, I think you're so interesting, not because you're just an amazing regional president, but your region is really nuanced. So you oversee, in my opinion, one of the most complex regions in the country, maybe the world, especially with Florida, because you have basically like a market that has its own dynamics. You have luxury, you have relocation, you have snowbirds, rentals, condos, weather, you've got all the things, and still somehow you lead it with a smile on your face and success. So I'm excited to get into the nuances about your region. And Dave, from the GRA side, you're obviously seeing buyer behavior, pre approvals, rate conversion, locks, and deal flow in real time. I love and nerd out on your weekly and monthly emails. I've
Oh,
just got
good.
done reading it this morning. So we're definitely going to get into that. So are you guys ready to get tactical today?
Let's do
Absolutely.
it, guys.
Fabulous. Awesome. All right. So I want to start with the market reality. I really want to start with Duff. Duff, talking about the Southeast right now, what might feel like a little bit different about this market compared to prior cycles, in your opinion?
That's it's a crazy question, but it has so many different answers because I'm actually sitting here in DC, and it's funny because I every time I come to the DC market, which is part of my Southeast region, we've always said that because of the government, it's been insulated from any kinds of recession in real estate or any kind of ups and downs. But because of what went on in the last couple of years with Doge and a lot of the uncertainty with the government, the DC market and the mid-Atlantic for that matter has been hit the hardest in the Southeast, and Georgia and the Carolinas and Florida have actually weathered the storm, which is a pun, but we didn't have any hurricanes, knock on wood, in the last 12 months, which was the first in 3 years where we avoided Mother Nature. So Florida has actually seen a pickup, whereas the DC Mid Atlantic market is still struggling with uncertainty. Georgia and the Carolinas are pretty steady. I think we call them halfbacks. I think they've become pretty popular in Georgia and the Carolinas. Those are people that moved from the north to the south, all the way to Florida, and then realized they liked more of the seasons. So they went back halfway home, and they're now called halfbacks, and they live in Georgia and the Carolinas because they're halfway home. So the truth is, to answer your question a long way, Florida has gotten a little steadier, and the Mid Atlantic is still concerning, and hoping that the government quiets down a little bit.
That's a great insight. I'm using half packs forever. I've had snowbirds in my lexicon forever, but half packs is a new one, and I really, really like that. So we're gonna have to get you into the global luxury trend report on a whole section on half packs. I think that's awesome. All right, Zeph. So, like, let's talk about where I know you said Florida's kind of normalized. Where do you feel like deals are maybe getting stuck right now? Is it price? Is it rate shock? Which I know we're still like maybe still talking about the pandemic, even though it's 6 years later, but there's still rate shock. Is it insurance, appraisal, buyer confidence, seller expectation? Like, where are things getting stuck in your opinion?
Well, you know, Florida has actually seen a comeback because of Governor DeSantis's comments about removing the real estate taxes, which has given a lot of hope to a lot of buyers in Florida. But for the most part, Lindsay, it's a buyer's market in Florida. And I think a lot of people after COVID, when we saw the pricing surge for 2 years, 3 years almost, a lot of people thought Florida became unaffordable almost across the state, even the Panhandle, which 30A, which has become probably one of the most popular parts of Florida, which people didn't really talk about the Panhandle or Destin. 30A has become a luxury darling of Florida. But I will tell you, I've seen Naples and Sarasota take off in the last 2 years, where people have moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. We've seen a lot of migration of luxury buyers moving to Naples and Sarasota from Miami or Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach. Palm Beach is still probably the hottest, ridiculous real estate market in Florida. And I think it could be because of Trump being there and a lot of people wanting to be close. But Palm Beach was always a special place. But
Hotspot.
I will tell you, the deals you see getting done in Palm Beach, Miami probably second to Palm Beach. And then I would say probably Fort Lauderdale, Naples, 30A. Tampa probably in Orlando have not seen all the luxury craziness and demand. But for the most part, you know, I'll say it this way. Since the tariff shock, which really hit Florida hard, because a lot of the Canadians, my friends, my family, didn't want to come to Florida because of the tariffs. There was this sort of we won't buy America after the tariffs. We saw a lot of the South American countries where they were concerned about their visas. We saw a lot of the Canadians and a lot of foreign nationals who were the usually the biggest part of the Florida demand dry up after the tariffs. So what we've seen now in the last 6 months is really a rebound where people are starting to understand the tariffs may go away and or they were recalled by the government or the Supreme Court, I think. I think a lot of people are realizing things will get back to normal in Florida, and we're seeing the Canadians and the South Americans and the Europeans come back to the places in Florida where they were coming before the tariff shock.
Always amazed at as nuanced as your market is, Duff. You're so well versed in every little corner of your market. And I know that you've obviously been in the business for a long time and that's your role, but your ability to just at a pin know exactly each detail is just always incredibly impressive to me. Dave, don't think I didn't notice that mug that you just brought up. You need to do a little show and tell here. What was on that mug that I saw? A little
Ah,
flame action.
always branded.
Very cool. I like that. I
So
like
just
that.
all right, yep, you don't have one. Well,
Uh,
this would be anybody that listens, if you want one,
I
just,
feel like I might. DT usually hooks me up. So Danielle, our superhero behind the scenes, generally gets me all like the best swag.
They do have the best swag.
They do have
GRA
the
has the
best swag. They
best
do.
swag in the country of any
so
vendor I've ever worked with.
Danielle's the best.
GRA, the best.
Yes.
Danielle is the best.
we do
Dave
So
have good
is
quality.
amazing.
There's a good
Dave,
story behind this,
Duff
actually.
just gave us a really good regional kind of perspective. At a macro national level, what are you seeing in terms of maybe like that rate shock? Where are you still seeing deals getting stuck? And how is GRA playing a role in trying to navigate through those as a partner to Global Banker Realty?
Yeah, it's actually, turning out to be a really solid year. So we're up 15% for the year on purchase transactions. So we're a little ahead of the market. This is national. Um, and if you think about, so what's interesting about that, so we're first half of the year, we started last year at 7%. Right now we're at about 6.5. And we've been down to six early this year. We've been to 6, 7, or whatever. 6, 7. Anyway, I know. And now we're 6.5. But we didn't get to 6.5 last year until would that have been Labor Day? Yeah, we didn't get to 6.5. Now we were working our way slowly. So 7, 6, 9, 6, 8, like we're gonna head down, but we didn't get officially to 6.5 firmly until the end of summer. So until September 1. But to so put that into context, so rates are higher last year, rates a little bit lower this year has spurred a little bit of more activity, right? So we're like, up 15%. I think what it shows you is the consumer and the home buyers have gotten used to an interest rate around this level. We definitely see a pickup, certainly in refinance under 6.5 and under 6.25. But even in purchase, we start to see a big pickup, almost to the tune in pre-approval activity. Once we get under 6.25, close to six, our pre-approval activity almost doubles. Now it has to turn to contracts and there's inventory and you got to win all that kind of stuff. But you definitely see a pickup. But I haven't said that just to back up. I mean, up 15% versus this time last year. You see that the consumer sort of settled in, that sub 7%. Life is moving on, still making a move, still looking to buy a home where I want to buy the home. And that activity has really been strong this year. So we feel pretty good about it.
Well, here's my shameless plug for GRA.
Yeah.
And I'll speak as a consumer, not partner. I am actually under contract
Yes.
and I'm working with GRA for my probably sixth or seventh time.
I was gonna say.
And I will say, I make this joke, but the first time I got a jumbo loan, I thought it was like getting a colonoscopy because it was such a difficult process, and I had to get Jay Crowder and Dave involved, and they explained to me that getting certain types of loans, like a jumbo loan, can be very difficult in terms of all the questions
Yeah.
and how many. But now, for the sixth or seventh time going through it, not only has GRA made it the most wonderful experience electronically, digitally, with all the requests, but it has gotten so much better than 10 years ago, not only from the technology standpoint, but the way they work with you and the questions and the expectations up front, that I don't feel it's as difficult, but also as intrusive into my life, into what I have to do. So I do have to give them a plug. I'm very excited. I'm not excited about the 6.5 interest rates, but
Right.
thankfully, we're looking closer to 5.5 because we're working on some creative financing and GRA. That's the other reason I would tell you I love GRA. And I know we're going to talk about this later. I think what they do better than anything is they work with the buyer to their specific needs. How long are you going to be in the house?
Yes.
What type of risk tolerance do you have? I'm not going to live in this house for 30 years. I don't care if there's jumps in the next 2 or 3 years. Let's do a shorter term. Let's bet on a shorter term aggressive APR, and let's, take our chances that things are going to get better in the next 3 to 5 years. So I will tell you, GRA has been a great partner. And as a consumer, I couldn't be happier.
It's an
Yeah.
awesome testimony.
I would tell you too, for the loan officers that hear this and for the agents that hear this, hear the same thing. For loan officers, what Duff just said, so powerful and so important. The loan officers are winning the most, are going deep up front and then providing lots of options, which is now that may just sound elementary, but it's not very common in our industry. It's very common for most loan officers to take a path of whatever one profit program they're versed in, and maybe a 30-year fix, and just head down that path versus saying, well, let's open up the options here and let's take a look at five different things. Now, it does require asking a lot of questions. And I have a really great, actually a great story. And so Alfonso Esposito, you guys know, is in the New Jersey market, one of our top loan officers. He actually recently, I would put it, I guess he re-won a contract, or re-won a customer. So the customer, he was referred by Coldwell Banker, and it was very complicated. First time home buyer. There are a lot of things that need to be uncovered. So it was going to be difficult to put together, but not impossible. But that's where we're really good. So Alfonso was asking lots of questions to make sure we had the really clear roadmap and there were not going to be hiccups along the way that were unexpected because we didn't ask the right questions. As a result of that, the customer actually decided to go with another lender. It felt easier with the other lender. They weren't really asking all these crazy questions. And oh my gosh, this is going to be much easier than Alfonso digging deep into my life. Well, lo and behold, a week, no, it was days before the thing was going to close. Uh, the lender fell through. The lender could, they weren't experienced in asking the right questions, getting it. So the customer comes back to, and the agent come back to Alfonso, see if we can still put it together. And we did. We closed it. We closed it within the time frame. It closed right on time. And it was very emotional because it was a first time home buyer. They were going to get the home, then they're going to lose the home, then they're going to get the home. But I would just say what you said, Duff, is so important for loan officers to hear and for agents to also work with loan officers that maybe at times go uncomfortably deep up front, just to be sure we have the full picture, and then there's not going to be hiccups, and then we can hit the process streamline.
What I really value about guaranteed rate affinity is when you guys know when to pull the lever of speed versus strategy and how to find the balance of both. So if you need a
Right.
quick pre-approval and you need to close, great. But I think you also do a really good job of, to your point, Dave, knowing when to slow things down and say, hey, I know you want to get to the closing table. I know you want to do all these things, but I want to just paint a full picture because this is not an average. You don't do this every day in your life, right? This comes up every couple years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever. And so much changes in that amount of time in the way that a home is purchased or sold. So I really like your guys' ability to just pinpoint that place of speed and strategy and have a perfect balance. And, Duff, I don't know if you've heard past podcasts where we've talked about mortgage feeling easier, right? I know Dave points to we have a 94%. This felt easy. Like that's unbelievable in the mortgage space. You said like it feels like a colonoscopy. This one felt like a dental cleaning. It was in and out and it was
Well,
fresh and friendly, right? Like it was a
well,
much better process.
just to finish that story, we were countering on the price, and the seller had asked us to shorten the appraisal and the closing date by we were at 30, they wanted us to go to 20. And I literally was nervous because I didn't want to give up the price,
Right.
but I didn't that's what the seller. So I called Tony Grimmel, who's my loan officer from GRA, and I said, Tony, can we live with the 20 days? Because I don't want to give back the price. And if I give them the win on the shortening of the closing, we're probably going to get our lower price. And it ended up working out because GRA said we can get it done. And like I said, that's the partnership. So when you talk about winning more deals, you can't do that when you're working with a no name, no friendship, no relationship loan officer, because you're not going to be able to work with them. Not only did he give me a pre-approval letter that we were able to submit with our offer, now he's able to shorten the terms that we agreed to in the contract just to make the seller happy.
I also think it's besides building trust when you're working with someone over and over, there is a power in storytelling and saying, "Hey, I had a client with you with this LO, months ago, years ago. Like this is how we navigated this." The more you get that comfortable familiarity with someone, you can reach back into past client experiences and say, "Hey, this person helped me navigate, and I have a lot of confidence that they can do it again for you." So I think that's important. Um, Let's talk about just in competitive situations. And if you guys are going head to head in some of the toughest markets in the country, what gives an agent credibility with the listing side before price even enters the conversation? I know you said having that partner really matters. Like, what are you seeing the winning agents doing to showcase this partnership that maybe makes them stand out in a sea of sameness? What's that talk track sound like?
Well, I look at Greg Haight as one of my examples of a true partner with not only GRA, with our Sunbelt title. And, what he has really coached, and I know the Vistardis team, Alex and Amy in Orlando, who are very big supporters of GRA, are really good at getting GRA involved. John Smith is the loan officer in Orlando, is one of the best in the country. They get him involved in every listing and every opportunity to get it pre-approved, to get it, you know, it's so much easier to get a higher price for your seller and to be able to tell your seller you're going to get them a higher price because you have a mortgage partner who's going to work with any buyer that they bring in. So I think our top agents are really partnering. Most people think you need a great mortgage partner when you're working with buyers. I think the misstep is not knowing that a mortgage partner can help you on the list side as well. And I think and even putting them on your signs or putting them in your marketing, saying this is pre-approved at this price. We have it, we have an appraisal done. There are certain things that top agents can do to give people price certainty. Because I'm not going to lie to you, when you asked me earlier, how's the market? It's definitely become a buyer's market across my Southeast region. And there are pockets of probably strength where there's no inventory and maybe sellers have some leverage and strength. But for the most part, we're seeing inventory grow and buyers think they have more leverage than the seller and they're really working price. And it really helps a seller to hold firm if they have a mortgage partner in place with maybe an appraisal or maybe an approval on that buyer already ready to go. And, buying points, I've seen people do. We've seen the home builders really take advantage of buying down mortgage rates. And I think what I've encouraged some of our listing agents to do is why not copy what builders or home builders are doing? Because
Yeah.
they have thousands of homes to sell. You have one home to sell. And at the end of the day, we've seen them buy down, like they're advertising, come to my community, you'll get a 4.5% mortgage. And people are like, how are they able to do that? Well, they just buy down, instead of giving them $50,000 off the house, they take the same money They hold the house because for a home builder, it's very important for them to keep the price of the home higher so they can sell out the community at a high price. And they don't want to hurt the people that bought a year ago. But the way to get their buyers are by buying down the interest rates and making it more attractive. So I don't know why our listing agents aren't copying that strategy. Because to me, it's brilliant. Dave, I don't know.
Two
You must know that.
It's one
two
of my
huge
love
gems.
languages, the buy
Go ahead.
down. It's in my love language, the buy down. Well, they're not doing it because and this has been something love that you brought this up that I've been you're beating the drum on for about 2 years now. Um us as lenders have got to do an even better job of education around that. Because I've been to some open houses this spring, and none of the listing agents had contemplated a buy down strategy or even knew they'd heard of the term but didn't really know how it worked, and they were shocked to know that they could actually use less money to buy down the rate than they would have on a price reduction that would get somebody's attention. So it costs less to do the buy down as a seller than it would to reduce price. You hold price, you deliver a better value to the buyer because now they have an entry payment that they're comfortable with that could be for a year or for 2 years. It depends on there's variety of buy downs. But I think we just continue at GRA to talk about it because we can help the listing agents. And in some markets, price reductions are it's about that time of year. We're getting there. Close to that time of year, price reductions have been rising, and in some markets, price reductions will run 40% or so of the listings, and you don't have to go that route. You can head down the buy down strategy.
In every podcast, in every time we're on stage, I find a moment to give homework. I would be a student forever. I'm a school nerd, so I'm going to give everybody homework. If you are an agent listening to this podcast today, your homework is to get really well versed in buy down. If you're a manager, your homework is at your next sales leader meeting, usually on Tuesday mornings. This is part of your sales meeting next week, next month, whenever it is. If you're an LO, find 10 agents in Coldwell Banker Realty offices and go ask them to tell you in a role play way, how would you pitch a buy down to win more business? That is how, as the team collectively, we get really good. When we have these little nuggets of information and we rehearse and we script and we ask questions in a safe place where you can just be vulnerable with questions, that's how we're going to get really good at doing this in the real world. And this is going to help unlock inventory and win more business. So if you don't feel well versed in this space yet, this is your homework for the next month because I'm telling you, it will make a difference in the growth of your business and the company's growth without a doubt. Buy downs, huge takeaway from this podcast. All right. So, Duff, you laid out a lot of really good field reality. What I heard from you is it's the agent job to become more strategic. It's not just finding the house and writing the offer. It's really helping clients understand what's possible, what's realistic, and what they have to do to make this in a competitive market come to life. And that comes from the financing side. I want to talk a little bit more about the partnership advantage with Dave. I like I said, I really enjoy the emails that you send out. I know we already talked about a bump in pre-approvals. We've seen the rates come down a little bit. I know that you also mentioned purchase locks are up 12% month over month, which is really good signal for buyer behavior. Let's talk about what else are you seeing? How should agents interpret this? Um, how should they relay this to help them continue to unlock inventory? You're in a room with an agent. What are you telling them right now based on the data that you're seeing?
Yeah, that I think the opportunity is bigger than they were actually capturing. I think in some cases, there's still because the market isn't exactly what we'd love for it to just flood. Sometimes the mindset of all of us, we're human beings, can be a little bit of glass is half full, and so we don't lean fully into everything we should to create an awareness that opportunity is still great. Yes, there are some headwinds, but if you look at the number one way wealth is built, home ownership fits right in there. And so I don't know. So what happens sometimes we can shrink from that until we're waiting for the current environment to get better around us, and then we lean into it. But what the best agents that I've spent time with and the best loan officers I've spent time with actually tell me, and they've been saying this for 3 years, they're busier the last 3 years than they were in 2020 and 2021. And then you say to yourself, well, how's that possible? And that's the question you asked. Because you were doing, in mortgage, 3 times the amount of transactions. Yeah, so we were definitely busier. But what agents and loan officers tell me is they're busier working on their business rather than taking, essentially in mortgage anyway, it turned out to be just taking orders and just getting them through as fast as we could. So they're actually working on their business. The process has changed. The way they're using tech has changed. The way they're using social media has changed. The way they're educating. Totally. They're really they're busier, and they're busier with community outreach. They're busier with their database. Again, social media is a great place, but they're and sometimes I throw into social media. I think of Instagram, but they're getting busier in creating value content on YouTube, which is right now at least the number one place that that AI is sort of sifting off value. Right?
100%. I
Yeah.
actually we talked about that at your award trip, how important YouTube is. So one of the questions our Coldwell Banker agents, I get a lot of DMs like, "Hey, I can't do all the social media things, but like if I had to really invest my time in one," and it absolutely is YouTube and Instagram, not even a question. That's where AI is going to figure out who is trusted, credible, all the things. So if you're an LO, if you're a real estate agent, that is where to spend your time. For Coldwell Banker Realty, we've created classes around this where we're actually getting agents reaching out saying, "You got me a $5 million lead just because I revamped my YouTube."
Ah,
Crazy, crazy.
that's
Like, I
awesome.
love to hear it. And we're really arming our LOs and our CVR agents collectively. And I think that is an unlock of this partnership that we don't talk enough about is that the corporate side, that shared cross collaborative training, where if we have
Yeah.
something that we figured out, we crack a code, we can share it with you and vice versa. That's really powerful, which is very cool. I want to go back to your story about Alphonse. I think there is a lot of power in asking the right questions, right, Dave? So we talked about powerful questions that LOs can ask clients, but what should agents be asking their lending partners before they actually submit an offer that could help them to be more strategic? Like, what are they not asking that they should be?
Well, if it's submitting out, first of all, I would get a full pre-approval when you're submitting an offer, which is an underwritten pre-approval. So not a pre-qualification, which is pretty standard in the industry, which is just a quick enter some information, scans, says based on what you're providing, this looks like you could be approved for this amount. Actually, get a full pre-approval. So at GRA, that's called a power bid. So that's fully underwritten, and now you're just waiting for appraisal, because much of technology today can actually pull the income information that you need. That before I had to go dig out the shoe boxes and for make copies and send it in, that kind of stuff. It can all be pulled off and scraped through technology, and so you can actually get a full pre-approval really within minutes. So you could get it within the hour, and now you've got something credible. So I would make sure, as it relates to the offers and asking the loan officer, is this, and whether it's GRA, if you asked if it's a power bid, is it pre-approved? Same with any lender. Just make sure it's been pre-approved, and an underwriter, whether that's a technology underwriter or a physical underwriter, has actually blessed that pre-approval, so you don't run into problems later.
Makes a lot of sense. I love the way you explain Powerbid, and I know you have so many amazing products that we've talked about. I am having a hard time getting this out of my mouth because it's almost unbelievable, but we're at the end of the first half of 2026, which feels
No.
like absolutely impossible. Speed and time is like it's ridiculous right now how fast this year is going. So let's talk about future state. Where do each of you in your respective roles see the next 6 months going? Either locally, Duff, for you in your southeast region, or nationally, Dave, what are you seeing the next 6 months shake out to look like? Duff, we'll start with you.
So the interesting thing about looking at the numbers, May was an amazing month across the Southeast, and June is very soft. We are seeing more bumps and more ups and downs than I've seen in previous years. I don't know if it's because of the war, because I think Dave would tell you when I asked, I was with Patrick Esposito, our genius finance guy. I was at them in LA last week with Comedy and all the other RPs. And I said, what happened? What happened to June? Like May was amazing. And Patrick looked at me and said, well, we had interest rates go up. And, with the war and the interest rates being tied to every day, we're going to peace. We're not going to peace. There's a ceasefire. There's no ceasefire. I do think because it's such a strong buyer's market, as we described, you're really the buyers are very interest rate sensitive. And because we're still seeing sellers unrealistic in terms of pricing, And as Dave alluded to, there's a lot of price reductions. I think 85% of every home being sold has a price reduction, at least one. I think, yeah, historic, unbelievable. And I was with the Jills last week looking at houses, and they said the same, like it's amazing. And if we're not on the second or third price reduction, we're probably not even getting to a deal. But that being said, I do think buyers are very interest rate sensitive. And even myself, because I'm going through it now, I'm sort of like my loan officer said, should we lock the rate? He asked me if we want to lock the rate. And I was like, well, maybe there'll be peace tomorrow. Maybe the rates will come down. So I do think there are people like me, I'm speaking as a consumer, who really think, and Dave can speak more, that I don't even think we're back to the interest rates which were prior to the war starting. So until we get back to that number, the market's probably going to be up and down.
That's interesting. Dave?
Yeah, I see there's a lot of sideways chop. I mean, we could maybe touch 6 to 6.25 again, but we could also just easily touch 7. We don't know. And I think that uncertainty creates, it probably does hold some folks on the sidelines. But having said that, I think as we look forward, the thing with the mortgage, and thank goodness, it's finally getting easier and easier and easier. The technology side, it's getting easier for us too, which is also bringing down cost to produce, and speed and certainty are all increasing. So on the mortgage side, as we continue to go forward, I don't think it's going to be, because it's always the scary part. You're buying a home, and I'm working with Lindsay and Duff, and I get to talk about my dreams and neighborhoods and pools and schools, as I like to say, all that kind of stuff. And then I get to Dave, who's the mortgage guy, and we're going to ask difficult questions, going to be a pain in the butt. And there's these mystery people who are underwriters. I don't know what they're all about. That whole thing is getting easier and easier. So we should feel good about that. You're seeing a lot of consolidation in both of our, real estate and mortgage. And I think what you're seeing is the leaders in technology are the ones doing the acquiring, are the ones who bring in the other company because they need it, and they can't. And it's very difficult um, to build a full tech stack, which I feel so fortunate for all of us working for the mortgage company and real estate company that is providing the best tech in the industry and staying ahead of that, much of which we build on our own. And that's very hard for most companies. So you're starting to see companies that can't get there, they have to get there, or they're maybe not be in the business much longer, right? And so they're consolidating. So I think you're going to continue to see the consolidation, which again is just going to, because they're latching onto companies that can make the process easier, can help scale their companies and provide value, the loan officers, agents, and the consumers. So I'm awfully excited about it. I know there's a lot of angst around AI to a certain point as well. And I would just, gosh, I got to find this book and I'll get it before. I'm so excited, just arrived today, I think. I want to tell everybody about it, to read it, because the way I look at AI and the way we should be looking at AI. I always say this to our loan officers: you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you certainly could be replaced by loan officers that use AI, because they're faster, easier, smarter, providing better value. And if you're not thinking about it from a marketing strategy, you may not even show up in AI searches that you want to show
100%.
up in as well. It's exciting times, but Who Moved My Cheese would be a book everybody should read, because the cheese keeps moving like hourly. And adapt, change, and embrace it, because it's scary. But if you embrace it and move with it as an opportunity versus a scarcity, you're going to leapfrog everyone, because human nature, it's in us that would raise fear and scarcity. So you have it. It's how fast can you shift to an opportunity mindset and go forward? Because what you're seeing too amongst consolidation, the bigger teams are be getting bigger in real estate. The bigger teams in mortgage are getting bigger in mortgage, because they're bringing agents and loan officers along into that mindset, but into an ecosystem that they've built that the smaller loan officer agents haven't built, but they need to tap into that so they can provide that level of success as well.
Yeah, I think AI is just going to make you more prepared. Either you embrace it or not. But the ones that do, you can tell the difference in their strategic approach, their preparation. It's really incredible. And obviously we've embraced that on both sides of our business. A couple other things that I want to just go back to that we talked about, the technology unlock. I will say Coldwell Banker, in my 15 years of being here, and I grew up with Coldwell Banker because my dad's been a manager for 40 years. We have always just fall a little bit short on the technology side. And starting in 1 week from now, we are getting the biggest tech rollout in the history of real estate as an unlock from the Compass International Holdings merger. So I don't think I've ever been more excited. I've never been more sure of our future of being unbeatable. I have said to every agent who will listen to me, you have absolutely no excuse to now lose at the listening table. You have every piece of the value prop, whether it's partnership with GRA, whether it's marketing support, whether it's a recognized brand, your sales support and leadership, and now the technology and marketing is just, it's absolutely world class, industry leading. And I've never had a more exciting time to be part of this chapter of our brand. So the technology piece is absolutely huge. We also talked about the historic highs of price reductions. One of the things that has gone really well for us is we have a program called Revive My Listing, where most brands are just saying, you know what, seller, we did our best. Let's drop the price. We've attacked it from a very strategic approach by tapping into our listing concierge program, which has, again, just been a competitive advantage for us. So there's all these differentiators, there's all these nuances that we have as a result of our company, our partnerships. And I'm just feeling such an immense a feeling of pride and excitement for what the next 6 months is going to unlock. All right, gentlemen, we're coming up on time. We're going to finish with a lightning round. Are you ready?
I am.
Lightning round.
All
Get
right,
it.
Duff, let's start with you. If an agent wants to win more deals starting tomorrow, what is one thing that they should change today?
Partner with GRA. I will say this. Um, if you don't realize the benefit of having a mortgage in-house partner, then you're missing out because you can go to your manager for so many things to help you when you have a buyer or a seller. But when you're not using one of our partners who we can pick up the phone and call and ask them to not only be creative, but also save the deal, like Dave already alluded to, you're missing out and you're going to lose a deal or two during the year by us not being able to help you as a team by calling a partner who has your best interest and who wants to see you win and close the deal because they have so much on the line as well. So I really do think having a mortgage partner who's truly a partner is different than working with somebody who you've known or you like. The fact that there is a company benefit and that your branch leader, your RVP, your president can pick up the phone and call Dave, can call Jay Crowder, can call Joel, can call all of our partners across the Southeast, across the country, and say, we're about to lose this deal. And I've seen it happen so many times where they're rescuing to save the deal at the last minute because the appraisal didn't come in. And trust me, appraisals are becoming a big issue. You need everything on your side in this market to help close the deal. And being able to call Dave Dickey and say, hey, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Can you help us? That's very different than calling Citibank or calling Chase or calling one of these or
Absolutely
Rocket
true.
Mortgage or calling any of these brands that you're just a number, a file, a loan number. They're not going to be, you may know that loan officer, but he doesn't have the pull that Dave and Jay and Joel and all the people that work on our team are going to have for you as an agent to make sure that deal is seamlessly closing every time. So I encourage you, work with GRA. They have your best interest at heart and they have all the right. Hey, if their products weren't competitive and they didn't have the right strategies, I wouldn't be telling you to use them and I wouldn't be using them myself.
You're right. But the thing that is so interesting about GRA is they've got the backing of a giant company, but they've got the family vibe. So it's not like you feel like you're calling like, I got a cousin, I got a friend, it feels like that because we hang out like as if we're family, but you've got that huge backing of an established company that really has depth and a bench of talent. It's really incredible. And Dave, I'm thinking like branded lifesavers at Duff's Next the Best might be good because of all the deals that you've saved. I feel like that could be an interesting just
That's
piece
kind
of
of fun.
swag.
And
I
I
That's
feel
do
what
like
like
that could
happens when
work.
you
lifesaver.
have a
Let me tell
marketer.
you.
Hey, she
Yeah,
is the marketer.
I like
You
that. All right,
are.
Dave, so if an agent wants to make their mortgage partnership more powerful starting tomorrow, what should they do first?
Love this because I have been hitting this hard with loan officers. We have to move, but real estate agent and loan officer partnerships have to move from doing business together to growing business together. And too far often we've been, and it's just in the history of the business, we've operated in separate buckets for the most part. We got the real estate side and we hand it off to the mortgage side. But there's so much you can do together to actually grow business. So the activity I would say, so specific activity I've given to our loan officers at GRA is to sit down with their real estate agent partners and talk about, first of all, as a loan officer, what are my top, to sit down and how can we do more business together versus just do business? How can we grow business? But to sit down and say, what are the activities we could do together? Here are my top dollar producing activities as a loan officer. I'd really be curious on what yours are. And we go through that list. And as we look at that list together, we say, well, what are those activities we could do together from that? And how do we actually grow business? Because I think for the most part, there are, it is growing within the real estate agent mindset that they don't necessarily need a referral partner as much as they need a business partner. So that is evolving. And I think the biggest thing I would say to loan officers and real estate agents is look for the opportunities, not just to do good. Because when I was in the business, I could earn business by simply providing good service. Give me the handoff. I've got a great catcher's mitt. I catch the lead and I do a great job with it. You can move well beyond that. We have to do that's table stakes. You have to take the lead, handle it great, provide great service, make it easy. But you have to move beyond that to actually grow business together. So I would say sit down and plan out the second half of the year. The first half, to your point, Lindsay, shockingly is over. So now, so now how do we go into the second half of the year and look at it in quarters? What are the things we can do to finish off the summer? What are the activities we could do in the fall and the winter? Already starting to think about how do we springboard into 2027 together. That'd be my advice.
Let's
And
go
then
with your baseball analogy. I think you just gave me, well, I'll flip to my sport, which is softball, but I think you gave me a softball and segue to close. And I think the biggest takeaway is that like the deals aren't being won at the offer table. That's not what it's happening. It's in the preparation. They're won in the preparation, in the strategy, in the confidence that you create for your client. And that's what this partnership is building around them, right? It's giving them a way to not work harder, not stress out. It's just an easy strategy that you bring to them. You bring them calm, you bring them certainty, confidence, and that's what's helping to really break out in that sea of sameness that we always talk about. So, when Danielle and Jay and Dave and I were talking about bringing this podcast to life, it was how do we show the true value that this partnership advantage creates, and that's it. That's it right there. And you said it so well. So I think that's a great place to close. Duff, Dave, it is always a pleasure to speak to both of you. I wish that we could have done this in person, but we will have to make
I
sure that we see each
know.
other
Let's see
soon.
each other.
Thank you so much. Wishing
Oh,
you both so much success in the
can I
back
close?
half of the year. Yes,
I'll
Dave.
close on one more thing,
Yeah.
maybe two. A reminder.
You do you, Dave. It's your podcast.
A reminder. Is Duff said something real important, and you just reinforced it. And it's we are not just a mortgage; we're actually a joint venture. And I find I don't talk about it enough, and I should because when I do, people are like, "Oh, what's that?" And then I said, "Well, we're actually 50-50 on. Like we're in it together. I have a vested interest in your success. You have vested interest in our success. We feed each other." And I forget. So as a reminder for all that listen, we're actually business together. We're 50-50 owned.
Yes.
And it makes such a difference. The dust point you're making about how we can help. We have a vested interest to help. And so I want to remind you of that. And then the second part
We
was
all
just
win together.
right and better together. And then the last is the coffee mug. It's intentional. We have this. So it's not officially official branded logos that I can take out to the market. This is more internal stuff.
Or like I feel like I could see that as like a tattoo on your back.
Yeah, well, that's what most people say, and then that's why our marketing team's like, yeah, that's probably not the image we want, but these are available. So ask for it. And the reason we have these is this is the shape of a heart, and the heart is on fire. And I would just give you one thing I could leave with is, and the reason we have that is to say when our heart is on fire, our business and our life is on fire. So how do you put your heart on fire? You have to remember we live in a I'm in a this is a crazy business we're in. It is hard. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of ups and downs with the competitor. The deal goes through, deal doesn't go through, the market headwind, you name it. But we carry a lot of stress. There's a lot of moving parts, and people are buying homes and moving across the country, and the mortgage side of things. We carry a lot of stress, so it's easy to become numb to that, or to let that actually bring you down. And we have to remember in sales, our our success is a transfer of energy. It's a transfer of how we feel, and then people sort of gravitate to you like a magnet. But the reason I bring this up is because probably the one thing I would say you could do, and you could do it right now. Anybody could do it. It's very, very helpful. Is start a gratitude practice. But what I would say really specifically you could do is right now, which is really fun. I'm going to do it right after we end here. 5 things that the real estate industry or the mortgage industry has given you. 5 blessings in your life. 5 things you're grateful for that this business has given to you. And you'll write 50 by the time you're done, by the way. Then write down 5 names of people that were brought into your life as a result of the real estate business or mortgage business that you wouldn't have crossed paths with otherwise. I got these 2 right here. That those are blessings in your life. That so when you start to then step back and realize everything that's happening in your life as a result of the business you're in, it'll raise your vibe, as we like to say around here. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And we're trying to transfer our enthusiasm for the industry, enthusiasm for home ownership. And it's easy for the weight of the industry to bring you down a little bit. But the best thing I have found personally, and others that I've coached and worked with, is to reflect on gratitude, specifically for the real estate industry, specifically for the mortgage business. Sometimes when rates are really high and not working in our favor, we do that with gritted teeth. Yeah, but do it. And it'll bring a new energy to you and a new perspective that I guarantee you will act as a magnet, will change your life. Do what I just said for 20 days. Do it for the between now and the end of July. It'll change your life. I promise you. Let me
No,
know
you're
how it
right.
goes.
Gratitude definitely raises your attitude 100%.
Oh, I
It
love
it
that.
really changes things. And I have to give Duff a plug. If you want someone to like give you a daily smile, follow Duff on Instagram. This man does not sleep. I put up a picture of anything. It could
Thank
be
you.
what I eat for lunch. It could be a social media. There is nobody that will like something faster than Duff. He is like my
I
daily, like just, oh, Duff really cares about me. So if you want someone in your life that just gives you that like daily sunshine
thank you,
of
Lindsay.
support and like ultimate cheerleader, this man, ultimate
Well,
person to have following you on
your your
Instagram. He's awesome. So
your
you,
content
I
is
don't know how you
great.
do it, Duff. I
Hey,
don't, I don't know if you're ever off Instagram. You are just like incredibly fast, but it always gives me a little bit of gratitude in my heart. So
hey, I do it
we will end with
myself.
gratitude raises your attitude. This has been so much fun. We're going to have Pauline Bennett, I think, coming up on our podcast. We're also going to have Corey Perkins, who is new to the GRAGJV. We're really excited to have him in a new role at
Uh,
Compass International Holdings. And I think we're having the one and only billion-dollar man, Rick Harrington, on also. So we've got some really good guests coming. Make sure you tune in. Thank you guys so much and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you
Thank you,
guys.
Lindsay.
Have an awesome
Thanks, Dave.
week. Good to see you.
Thanks, Danielle.